Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 32nd episode of Daily Reflections. I can't believe over a month has passed since I started doing this. And truly, it's been such a joy. I have had such incredible conversations. I hope you can check out the previous episodes here. It is amazing. We've had a range of different people come and share, how they are coping during COVID, but also, their life journeys. And these are all friends of mine, and it makes me truly appreciative of, the amazing people that I have in my networks. And today, to help us reflect, we have a wonderful, wonderful lady, Sunita Wazir, who is the Global Wellbeing Manager at Unilever. Good morning, Sunita. How are you?
Hi, Elsa. Good morning. Feeling super and really glad to be on your daily reflection show.
Wonderful. So, what is a Global Wellbeing Manager?
Thanks for asking. I think I get this question a lot because it's not something I think that usually you get to see in corporates. I think what it is basically is that I am responsible for people's health and happiness, and I can't imagine having a better job. My job is really about making sure that people are caring for themselves, which is so important, and finding happiness within themselves. And if they have a crisis or they have an issue, they're able to find some solutions. So for me, well-being really is, across four pillars, which is the Unilever framework that we described. It's physical, mental, emotional, and purposeful. And to have holistic well-being, you really need to be able to pause and think a little bit. So what better time than now?
Absolutely. Um, During COVID-19, everybody's talking about well-being, and you mentioned these four pillars. So some of the tips, are of course mindfulness. There's like mindfulness sessions all over the place, and I am flooded with, the Deepak Chopra 21-day abundance meditation, which I'm doing, by the way. But I also have my German networks doing um, Presencing Institute and others, So apart from that, what can people do for their well-being in a confined space? Because we have been forced into this confinement, right?
Yeah. So for me, how I'll say this is first of all, I think getting what's in our heads right is really, really important. If we look at this as confinement and we look at it as sort of isolation or being alone or being in a closed space with the family, I think it's going to be hard. It is starting to be hard. I'm hearing from people across all of the global places that I work with. I'm finding that people are starting to get emotional. We are 6 weeks, 10 weeks into the lockdown in different locations, and I think a big part of it is the conversation you have with yourself, right? What am I saying to myself every day? Am I starting my day with just setting what's ahead of me? Am I starting each day with gratitude? You and I, we're sitting in front of a laptop in our home with our families comfortably, internet access, food, and all of that. I think it's really, really important that we have this conversation with ourselves, talk to ourselves in our minds, and know that we have almost a place of privilege, right? So, what can we do to maintain holistic well being, especially in confinement? Let me take it across the four pillars that I described, right? So, I'm going to use my own example, but also from some of the colleagues I have. Physical well being, right? How do you do that? I'm a runner, Elsa, you know this. I'm crazy about running. It is something that moves me. It's been something I've done for 10 years. This year's Tata Mumbai Marathon was my 10th half marathon. And then suddenly one day on 17th, 18th of March, all the running groups said stop running because it's not the right thing to do. How do you manage your physical well-being, which is about diet, it's about energy, it's about exercise and nutrition. And first we were worried about shortages, then we started thinking about space, then we started thinking about just enough light, heat. All of these things are always there. These issues are always there. So I think just setting your intent for having the right food, staying away from battle of the snacks. We all have easier access to the fridge We don't move enough. We're sitting in front of our laptop for long hours. Netflix and all of the other online apps, God bless them, but they are going to cause problems. I think it's important to have some sort of discipline, right? So every time you feel like eating snacks, have a glass of water. That's, it's possibly you're doing this out of boredom. So setting simple rituals that take you away from bad habits is important. In mental is about distraction. It's about complex, things pushing you and pulling you in different directions. It's about multiple demands. All of us women, and we'll come back to this because it's a juicy topic. Women, we take on more onus. But what about sharing the load? What about really making sure that we don't let distractions take us away from what we need to get done? So we finish what we're doing. Harder at home, kids walking in on calls, it's all okay, right? As long as in our heads we've aligned ourselves to say, yes, this is going to happen. I'm not working from home. I'm at home dealing with a pandemic, and work is going on while everything else is going on. So that's another alignment in our heads. uh, Emotional, I think, is perhaps the toughest, and it's where people are really taking a hit, especially people who are dealing with loneliness, people dealing with grief, loss. All that is happening, right? Life is going on. So, again, seeking the right support, having someone to talk to, it's really, really critical. As corporates, of course, we offer employee assistance programs where you have an expert, but I'm available to talk to people. I've put it in my signature saying, if you need to talk, I'm here. There are many people willing to listen, so finding someone to listen. And the last one, purpose, which is what drives us. That's really, really what we need to make sure we focus a little bit on, right? A lot of our lives lately have been about run, 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 chase something. But I think if you know what you want to do, Monday morning is as exciting as Friday evening. When you know what your true north is, when you get up with that smile on your face on a Monday to get started with work, as much as you wait for Friday to hit the wine bottle or whatever it is that that your fix is. I think that alignment in times of COVID is important. So what I'm trying to, in a nutshell, say is that well-being is a lot of the conversation in our heads, in our minds, but then it comes out in a way where if we make conscious choices that are going to help us go through this time, and we somewhat correct our dialogue in our head, and you mentioned mindfulness. Great to just take a few moments of just breathing when something is agitating us, especially emotionally, and then let everything else go on. So have a have a bit of that conversation with yourself, which stops you from going down a negative spiral. Long answer, but that's what I've been doing as well.
Thank you for that, Sunita. I think those are very concrete suggestions across the four pillars. And you're right. You don't have to do all of it. You can start off with one, you can move to the other, you can experiment a bit. And sometimes, just these things about the words we use. So, isolation, self distancing can be negative. It's actually physical distancing, but that doesn't mean we can't be socially connected. And we have all the tools to do so. Of course, we don't have the physical touch, but then we are at home, so maybe concentrate on the people who are around us. And if you're alone at home, maybe look and see if you can actually have a cup of tea with your neighbors. You can keep that physical distance, whilst also sharing a meal, or even having a chat. You can stand in your corridor at either end and have a conversation, or across balconies. And we are seeing that, in many parts of the world where they are having music concerts. Is that the cuckoo that you were talking
Yes,
about?
yes. I was telling you there will be a bird. The bird always shows up when I'm online. My colleagues from across the world now look forward to the sound, but it's a great sound to wake up to, right? I mean, I'm an early riser. Both of us, my husband and I, wake up early, and it's so great. We wake up to bird sounds. We've always had them. We're blessed. We are in an area where we always have had birds, but right now they're just having a cacophony of fun, and it's so nice.
And it's another part of our life, right? That we've kind of separated the nature, especially in a city like Bombay, where you have very few green spots, and you don't really have the time to access all the beautiful, hills and, mountainous regions around Bombay. So this is a moment to just take in all the sounds that you can. around you. And it's amazing the kind of pictures that are popping up all over, peacocks on the road, and different kinds of birds coming looking for water and food grain, etc. I wanted to, hone in on one thing that you mentioned. You said happiness. You're responsible for your organization's happiness in a way, through the role that you are in. And when I joined Kingfisher Airlines, I was leaving a very established job at Jet Airways, and I was on a fast track career progression over there. And one of the things that motivated me to make that shift was Kingfisher Airlines had defined 5 areas of happiness, of the 5 areas of focus. One was safety, service, I think it was customer service, I'm not sure. But happiness was one of those, one of the 5 areas. And I said, if happiness is a value and that is their focus, I really want to join this company. And that was what motivated me. People thought I was crazy to quit an established job and start up with a startup airline, which they didn't give even 1 year, you know, to
Yeah.
last. But it lasted, and it was an incredible journey. And I credit a lot of what I am today to my time over there. So tell me about happiness. When an organization invests in happiness, in my view, it's not just writing it on a piece of paper on your vision statement. It really has to be part of your ethos. So how does Unilever do it?
Sure. I love hearing about your own example because I started in the airline industry and we have that in common. I worked with Delta, which is a US based airline, for 13 years, and I credit a lot of the individual professional behaviors and all of that I've developed to that. I think an airline job just sort of puts you in the right space, makes you disciplined and on time, and I think that's really a valuable asset to have, especially right now, right in COVID. It's important to be on time, have a schedule, and all of that. What do we do as a company to help people? I think there are 3 or 4 things that are really, really important. And I think those really come out in the way we are. And we have a huge amount of leadership sponsorship. If we don't have top leaders that actually believe in it, your conversation won't change, right? It'll always be a plan on a page, or it'll be an idea. And we have companies with great policies, but what about implementing them, right? It's really, really important to have those advocates or those people that are ready to stand in front and be the face of every campaign that you have. So the 3 or 4 areas that are really important to us in well-being, and the one that actually is to pivot for us right now, is supporting people with mental health issues. Right, that is front and center for us. And mental health issues are not only extreme issues like depression, anxiety disorders, which we need to understand and we need to have empathy for as we deal with individuals that are facing them. But I think mental health is something that everyone experiences. Good mental health is when you feel you are able to meet your personal, social, work commitments and still have some degree of balance. Uh, and poor mental health is when that becomes strain. So if you look at right now, everyone's working 24/7. We've got a lot more going on. And as a company, we recognize that there is fear. The driver is fear. People are afraid about, either losing their jobs, or they're being far more accommodating. They're not delayering work time and, home time and all of that. And I think mental health support is where you go to an external expert, someone who doesn't know who you are, is anonymous completely. You're anonymous completely. It's confidential, and you get the right advice to make better choices yourself. So they're not, a counselor doesn't solve your problems for you. What they do is they help you come to terms with it. They help you understand how to solve it. And I think that's where we are able to really make a difference. So what we do is we offer an employee assistance program in every country across the world. So any colleague of mine across the world can talk to an expert in their local language. That's really important. Again, when you're distressed, you want to be able to talk in your language rather than necessarily in English or any other language that's adopted by your company. So that, I think, is one of the key places, because happiness can't come when you have mental pressure, distraction, worry, anxiety, or a mental health issue. right? And it's all on a spectrum. Mental health is on a long spectrum, and we all experience highs and lows in it. The second area, I think that we make sure we bring out the right information is, we're very fortunate. A lot of our brands are driven by purpose, and those brands share what they're doing. So coming up in the next few weeks, we've already worked with Lipton, which is our tea brand globally. We worked with them on a campaign for addressing loneliness, and now we're working with Clear Shampoo, which is launching an amazing resilience program for 14 days starting May 1. So within our ecosystem, we've got brands that actually help you find solutions, that help you build your inner strength and all of that, right? So we usually find ways to do that. And then I think the third one that's really important is being fair, being equitable, adopting inclusion in every way. So we all talk about diversity and inclusion, and you've heard me talk about inclusion, specifically inclusion across all of these spectrums. Being aware of stigma, being inclusive of people that are experiencing mental health stress and disorders, inclusion of people with disabilities, which is so closely tied to what's going on right now. It's hard for people with disabilities with coronavirus. If we find it hard in being confined and constrained, what about people with disabilities? I have a young intern friend who's living alone in Bangalore. He went there to work there. He's visually challenged, and you know what? He didn't come back. So he's by himself in another city, away from his parents, and he's getting by. He's doing okay. He had a birthday recently. I wished him, and he fills my heart when I talk to him, because he's a cyclist. He swims, and he's adopted to his lifestyle, adopted ways to meet with all the things that he loves doing. So how do you get happiness? I think happiness happens when you enable an environment when you can bring yourself fully to work. Right? I can be myself. I have two kids. I live with, my family, my husband. They are my priority. It's very clear. I've always been open about it. And happiness is when I can be that person. I'm a runner. I talk about running. Every analogy I use inevitably lands up with the finish line. And I like to talk about that. It's the way that I get driven. So my purpose statement at work is, enabling joy to help others achieve their finish line. And I can be myself in my company, in my team. I can talk about who I am, what drives me. So honestly, having policies like agile working, work from home, we've always had them. It was far easier for us to shift to what's going on right now because we had those. But the big enabler is where our leadership comes forward and they're ready to show their vulnerability. They're ready to put their weight behind our programs. They talk about having issues with mental health themselves, and what better precipitation than having that. Last year we had seven colleagues from across the world talk about their mental health issues on camera, and everyone else heard them. It encouraged a lot of people to talk about what's going on in their minds. So in summary, I think while there are programs, there are campaigns, and we keep running them, happiness is about knowing within yourself that you're okay and at ease. And what we do is, we enable physical, mental, emotional, and purposeful enablers to help people bring themselves, their true selves.
That's so important. And I do believe that it has to be driven by the top leadership. And if your colleagues can share stories, and that's one of the reasons for this daily reflection, really, to understand different ways that people are coping, and also highlight different people's journeys. Like you, for example, started off in the airline Delta, and then now you are global well-being manager at Unilever. I want to ask you, how did you come about in this role? And you're very, very passionate about the issue of disability, and you work a lot with people with disabilities. And I really feel it's about different abilities, because we call them disabilities, persons with disabilities, but really I've worked very closely with a visually impaired app developer, and he makes such beautiful apps. And to think about on a normal day, I'm technology challenged. You can see with this program itself, and here there's somebody who, makes such beautiful, beautiful apps. I think we just don't give them a chance often enough. And even if sometimes we say we are inclusive, we are not truly inclusive, because we don't really create that enabling environment that you just described for happiness. It's about enabling the environment and the support structures that will allow for somebody to thrive and prosper.
Yep. So let me start with, how did I end up in this role? That's a very interesting question. I still continue to ask myself. So it's interesting. My career was in two phases. First, I worked with Delta, and then I moved into expertise roles. I started working on change management and leadership development, and I worked with the Tata Group, and then I came to Hindustan Unilever Limited, and that's where I started really working earlier on change management and on inclusion of people with disability. I worked a little bit on affirmative action. And while all this was going on, I managed the Unilever Future Leaders program. So there were different elements of what I was doing while I was working with Unilever. And along the way, around 2015 is when our global Unilever Wellbeing framework got launched. Now, the only thing I know about why I sort of got volunteered into the program at that time, I think, was that everyone knew I was a runner. I talked about running all the time. So, physical fitness was important. I talked about it to everyone. I wonder if that precipitated it. But what I did realize, in a very short while, was that it was hard to talk to, especially the best minds in the business, right? Who do we hire in corporates in India? We hire the top MBAs, the cream of the cream, and everyone is driven by delivering. At least back then, everyone was driven by work. Work plus work was success, and hard work and more work, and it was very hard to land well-being. And what I do know is I love challenges. I love doing something that's really hard to do. And I think that's where it happened that, I got picked to land the well-being program, to customize it. There was a global initiative. The four pillars were very clear. The framework was there. But really making it relevant to the South Asia environment, making sure that it works here. Because, the countries that were prescribing the program were way ahead on the curve. We know US and North America are way ahead in their well-being work. They started a long time ago. It's legislated by the state, right? And so it was really important to contextualize. And as I jumped into it, I realized, that I had gone through this evolution myself. Till I was 35, I had never run. I'd never been physically fit. I had been someone that, went along with some degree of healthy habits, but I didn't have something that drove me to wake up every morning at 5 for the rest of my life. I used to go to bed at 5 because I was working with the airline industry earlier on. So lots of changes that happened personally, and a lot of understanding that, fitness and health are important. It's like you have to bank a lot of good stuff so that you can withdraw when you need it. And that actually happened to me. In 2014, I fell down the stairs. It was so humiliating. I wish it was, skydiving or bungee jumping, but I fell down the stairs in my own building and had a triple fracture. To recover from that, I had screws and wires and all of that implanted in my foot. Now the point is, how did I get out of that? How did I get back to running within 9 months? It's because I had banked good health, right? I knew that I had to bring this philosophy to my work. So this almost happened concurrently when I moved into my role. And that's where I got the energy that, I really do believe that banking good stuff is important. And I think that's important for all of us to know. We shouldn't take any day for granted. If you get up every day and exercise, I heard somewhere in one of your reflections that you get up and you're doing, exercise at 7. I'm getting up and I'm working. Thank God for people like Cult Life, right? So good of them to do workouts from home. We've got to take advantage of that. So that's what brought me into the program, into the role. And now over the years, it's evolved. And last year, I moved from South Asia to the global role. So I moved to helping 5 countries within South Asia. Now to helping, the whole globe. We have 190, 200 countries we work in, we operate in, and making sure that we work with leadership from across those clusters and markets and help them design programs that land for them. So it's exciting, it's challenging, it's great fun. The other element of my work, which was inclusion of persons with disabilities, it's no longer a formal role that I report into, but it's still something that drives me at a very core level, because in my interactions, I started working on the disability program sometime in 2013, 14, and Again, at that time, I couldn't find anyone to do accessibility audits to make sure the workplace was right. And it was very hard in Mumbai. There were companies, ITES companies in Bangalore doing this. But that journey from 2014 to 2019, when I had formally handed over my work on the disability program, it transformed me as an individual. I learned the challenges that people have. I got to partner some people. I got to be a part of their journeys of identifying. I think the hardest one was when I talked to someone and I said, I'm the disability lead, and that individual had not thought of themselves as a person with disability. So I think just having that respect, having that ability to help them and enable the work environment, the conversations, the growth, the promotion, the ambition that a person with disability brings. I think that is one of the things that will always drive me. So while I don't have a formal role in that with my workplace, it's going to be something I'll do for the rest of my life, and it is something that I'm driven by. We're making a lot of strides in India. There's some, fabulous people who've made this their life's purpose. I just want there to be many more people that become conscious of this. And for that, it's important we change the way we talk about it. We need to stop saying wheelchair bound, a wheelchair user, right? They use their wheelchair instead of their legs. We need to stop having victim mindset. And we need to start having a survivor or enabler mindset of people. When we correct the conversation, our heads will start correcting how we think about it.
I'm a firm believer that you don't need to have formal positions to make these changes in your organization. For example, when I was a head of department at Kingfisher Airlines network planning, it was a very strategic role. And whenever I would have a vacancy and I would ask HR to find me candidates, they would always send me these CVs of male candidates. And I was like, where are the women? Are there no women? And I wasn't working on gender issues at the time, but I just felt like, why all men? And they said, oh, because we are going to these engineering colleges and there are very few women there and they, probably they don't meet the profile. And I said, you know what? You find me the women. I'm not asking you for engineering profiles. I'm asking you for people who have logical thinking and, certain other skill sets. Find them and I will make the final choice. And that's how I ended up with at least 1/3 of my team
Fabulous.
as women, and they were extremely capable women. They've gone on to other airlines and are doing a fantastic job. So it's really about you as a leader identifying gaps that you can use your position of influence to fill. And so therefore you don't have to have like uh, you know uh, a program for gender inclusion or to include people with disabilities or the LGBTQ group. You can do it on your own. Who's stopping you? And HR actually told me, you're the only head of department that is being so difficult. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to close this position till I have a choice.
Absolutely.
So yeah. I wanted to ask you, coming to that, a large part of your role, and you've participated in our program for mentoring. So why is it important also for women leaders, especially who've achieved some degree of success, to make space and, create the opportunities for younger women or women who are starting out, or even, women who've taken a break from their career to have their families? Why is it important? And do you have an official mentoring program within Unilever? Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So, I think the first part of I love the first part of your question. Why is it important for women to support women? I was at this juncture in 2006 when Delta shut down India operations, and I was I went on maternity leave, and we had our son, and he's now 13. And when I went back to work, it was very confusing, right? I didn't know where I was going to go. My formal role, my first job was already gone, and now I was going into this new space, which was uncharted territory for me. The best part that happened, I think, was that the Tata Group had started a second career program, and that's what I joined. So I'm a buyer and a believer of the service, right? I received empathy, I received support, I got flexible timing so I could align and I could make myself, back to fully active and working. That's where I really realized that it's up to me to make that difference. It's up to each one of us to help someone else. And over these years, I've been an advocate of supporting other women return to work, making sure that the enabling environment. A lot of stereotypes, where women will say women are the worst bosses to have. They're the most demanding. But I think we have to break that negative conversation. Again, it's up to us to find women that grow other women and help each other. And so mentoring is a way where, one is, your mistakes, right? You know what didn't work well. You've had the vision, you have hindsight that you can draw on. Use that hindsight to help others so that they use foresight. I think that's a simple equation, right? I have a 25-year career. I made those mistakes. If I can help someone else at least get rid of a few years of all of that, I think it's great. And to your last question, of course, we do have mentoring programs, and there is a lot of sort of official mentoring programs, and then there are these spontaneous ones. We're always there for each other. I think the big part in this is listening, really, really listening to an individual, and then making sure that you're helping them find the best solutions for themselves. That, in a nutshell, is why this is so important. If no one does it, everyone will go through a struggle. We won't do anything to help get women more jobs, and that's not going to help us, right? We just need to make sure that it's balance, not diversity, and not quotas. It's balance. That's why we need to do this.
So, how are you coping during COVID-19?
It's been very interesting. Very long work days. Thankfully, there's a lot of people that are interested in their team's well-being from across the globe. So, we're in full business, right? It's long hours. New things have happened. I'm working out at home. I was so used to cardio and running. I, usually run about 20-25 kilometers a week. Now I have to get that same fix out of working out in the home, in my bedroom with Cult Live on early in the morning while the kids are asleep. So that's interesting. And I think the newest thing in my life is cooking. I never cooked. Very rarely. I didn't enjoy it so much. But the kids are loving what I'm making. I'm finding, this whole new movement within myself to get up, find the energy. My husband is from the hospitality industry, so he cooks sometimes. But a lot of the time, trying new dishes, loving the effect, making hot chapatis, with a laptop in the kitchen while a meeting is on. And it's an amazing time. We play board games every evening if we can. The kids and I go to the terrace and do stargazing. The sky is beautiful. You can see every star. So many new things and experiences. And of course, tough days. Tough days when it's really hot and it's irritable and everyone's feeling edgy. But we are finding happiness in the small things, in a little baking that my daughter is doing, or in some of the drawings my son is doing. So very, very different times, but a lot to be grateful and thankful for.
And what's the one thing that you're going to do once this is over?
I think, I think I've been co-opted into it. The kids have decided I'm going to make hot chapatis for them every day. Never done it before. Yeah, no, what am I going to do? I think I've been talking about bungee jumping for the longest time. Like I said, I wish my accident had been bungee jumping and not, falling down the steps. But I think I need to get down and get that done. Bungee jumping, skydiving, whichever one of those happens first. But as soon as there's a trip planned, I want to get to that.
Well, on that note, I wish you all the very best. Take care. Thank you so much for sharing all those nuggets of wisdom. I am really envious because I've never worked for Unilever, but it seems like a wonderful company to work with. I have one of my peers at my new fellowship, April Adams, and she's amazing. She's the global head for, I think, the food business, right? So she's been working with this program to, get food to people around the world during COVID-19 and make sure that there's great nutrition as well. It's not about just food, but also looking at the nutritional value of it. Yeah. Maybe we can have another chat later on that, like food
Sure.
and nutrition. But thank you so much for sharing. And I really loved all the nuggets of wisdom on happiness and how you can, make those little tweaks in your life so that you can have more of it. So thank you. Have a wonderful day, Sunita.
You too. Thanks so much. Thanks, Elsa, and thanks everyone.
And thank you everyone for joining in. And I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. I have another wonderful guest. She's an advocate at Majlis, Nausheen Youssef. See you tomorrow at 10. Bye.